وصحبه وسلم. We give thanks to Almighty Allah. We glorify His name. We ask for Allah's mercies and blessings upon the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household and his companion. We thank Almighty Allah for counting us amongst those who would fast Ramadan this year. Today is day 1. We pray to Almighty Allah to accept all of our acts of ibadah during this month of Ramadan. We pray to Almighty Allah to count us amongst those who would continue to fast in good health and a good amount of faith in our hearts, and an increasing amount of faith in our hearts until the last day of Ramadan, and to be amongst those who will witness many more Ramadan on this earth. And indeed, witnessing the month of Ramadan is something that one should be glad about. It is something that is worthy of celebration if there's ever anything that we look forward to in our lives. As we hear from our scholars, that they say that when Ramadan is approaching, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for those who understand, even up till this day, for the people who understand the essence of Ramadan, they look forward to the next Ramadan. They wish that the current Ramadan does not end. They want it to continue. And it is only for those who can discern the meaning of Ramadan, the essence of Ramadan, because Yoruba will say, and most of us, when we start counting the days, day 1, delay, tomorrow it's now 2 days. Some people are looking forward to the end of the Ramadan already. But wallahi, people who really understand the essence of Ramadan would never want it to end. And when it does come to an end, they're looking forward to the next one. Because Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, in and of itself, is just a month like every other month. What makes it special is the fasting in this month of Ramadan. It is the fasting that comes a day and another day and a day and another day after one another that makes it what it is today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, the very popular verse that we're going to hear multiple times during the course of this month, that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, kutiba alaykum as-siyam, we have ordained for you fasting. كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون, as we ordained it upon those that came before you. It is said that Allah ordained fasting from the beginning of time for people, because fasting is the fastest way to get closest to Allah. It is the closest you can get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting for a human being, it is very good. It is so good. It has so many benefits, physical and spiritual. But the most benefit it has are the spiritual benefits that gets you closer to Allah, that makes you achieve your essence as a human being. Because you have an essence as a human being, beyond you just being you eating, sleeping, drinking, and doing everything that you do. There's an essence for your creation. When the first person was created, the first human being that was created was the Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. And when he was created, he didn't ask to be created. There were other creations of Allah that existed before the creation of Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him, Allah made him special. Immediately he became special, himself and his wife, 2 human beings that Allah created. After he had created other beings, he had created the angels, they are beings, in body form. He had created the jinns, they're also beings in bodily form. And he created Adam, another being in another bodily form, and he asked those that he created before him to bow before him as a sign of respect and reverence to him. And from that day, because of that special treatment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to our forefather, Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, we gained an enemy. We gained an eternal enemy that day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to be careful of, told us to be wary about. And guess what? Yoruba will say, "Entuba junelo, ole junelu, ole junelu, ole junelu." That is the exact case about the enmity between us and Shaitan. It is so much so that it knows us, it knows our secrets. Because it was there when we were made. It was here before us. It was there when we were made, and Allah blessed him with knowledge. He knows our weaknesses. He knows the way to us. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he failed to obey the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give reverence to Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wa salam, he lost favor of Allah. He went out of favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he never forgave us for that. So we've been battling with this enemy throughout our lives. However, the succor we have is in fasting. That is why fasting has been ordained for people before us. All humans have been, have been asked to fast way before our own time. During our own time, it became more regulated. It got more, Allah tweaked it in ways to make it even better for us, to make it optimal for us, to make it beneficial for us. That is why Allah said, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. We have ordained fasting for you as we ordained it for those before you. لَأَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you might attain piety, or that you might fear the sins that you commit. You might begin to fear committing sins. So in this verse, Allah talked about ordaining fasting. He didn't tell us about any specification for the fasting. We have ordained fasting for you. When should we fast? And how should we fast? He didn't say anything about that. Then the next surah says, Ayaman ma'dudat. We're asking you to fast for specific days. Okay, what specific days? When? Can we just fast on a Saturday and a Sunday? Can we pick any day for ourselves? He didn't explain that in that next verse. And then the next verse after that, he said, Shahru Ramadan. Fast for specific days in the month of Ramadan. 3 ways. So, this time he gave a specification. He modeled it to something that will suit us, that will be easier for us. The same way he made Salat easier for us. It took his time to, suit us with the fasting and say, okay, don't fast throughout time because I have ordained fasting for you. Fast for specific days in a specific month of the year. So don't fast this month and then fast another month and just a specific month, 1 month. So that month existed before fasting was ordained in it. Fasting has existed since the beginning of time. The month of Ramadan existed as a month of the year that the people were counting. Then fasting was ordained in that month. And suddenly the month became so popular. It became blessed by the inclusion, by the situation of fasting in it. It became blessed. It derived its blessing from the blessing of fasting. That is to say that everything that is associated with fasting becomes as blessed as the month of Ramadan. May we all be blessed like the month of Ramadan. And that kind of blessing can only come to someone by derivation of the blessing of fasting itself. So what is the essence of fasting? What makes it so special that, we have to look forward to it every year, or that we have to hope that it doesn't end, that the month where we fast does not end at all? Why? What is so special about fasting? Well, like I said, we gained an eternal enemy the moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us preference over every other of his being. And that preference that he gave to Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam has come down on us. Everyone that is a progeny of Prophet Adam has the same preference that Allah gave. That means we have preference over the angels. And we have preference, believe it or not, no matter how sinful you are, no matter how bad within yourself you are preference in the sight of Allah, the Creator, over angels. You have preference in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over every jinn that he had created before you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have given preference to the progeny of Adam. You have preference. However, that goes back to your essence as a human being. If you do not tap into your essence, you do not get that preference. It is possible to be born a prince and act like a slave. If you act like a slave, you'll be treated as one. If you don't seize your place, if you don't take your place amongst the creation as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended it for you, then you will continue to be where you are. If you are supposed to be preferential over angels and the jinns, and you are not, that is your fault, not that of Allah. You are supposed to seize your preference. And how is that? Getting closer to Allah than any of these other two beings. But how do you get closer to Allah than any of these other two beings? You have to first study these two beings. Which of them is closest? The angels. Why? Because they are created only to worship Allah. They worship Allah day and night, morning, afternoon, and night. They do not get married. They don't have any pleasure. They don't enjoy any pleasure. They don't have any free will. They're only created to worship, and they worship by force, by fire. They don't choose not to. And then the jinn, they have free will. They can choose to worship or not to worship. And then human beings, we also have free will. We can choose to worship and we can choose not to worship. However, we are commanded to worship. Our ability to follow the command of Allah gets us a reward and gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more we worship, the closer we get to Him. And if we worship better, then the angels will get closer to Allah than the angels are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have the ability to do so because we have a task of choosing whether to do it or not to do it. They don't. So if I, who have the ability not to do it, choose to do it in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I get more reward than the one who never had a choice to begin with. It is the same thing even amongst human beings, that the one who does more work to do something as an act of obedience or servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets more reward than the one who didn't have to do as much work. It's like, Al yastawi al-qa'imun wal-qa'idun. Are they the same? The one that is standing and the one that is sitting. But then they're not the same because they're not doing the same work. If the masjid is located right in front of your door and you are walking from your house, you're taking 2 steps into the masjid, you're not getting the same reward as the person who has to walk miles to get to the same masjid. You're coming in with faith, but you don't have to struggle to do it. Who knows if maybe if you're living miles away, you won't be coming to the masjid. So you don't expect to get the same reward as that one who left his house and is going to walk 2 miles to come to the same masjid that takes you only 2 steps. So that is the way it is. If humans did the work and did the ibadah, put their mind into it, they would have better and they'll get closer to Almighty Allah and get more benefit of the closest to Allah than the angels would get. So we have the opportunity to do this. The best time is during Ramadan. And why is that? Another thing is, again, because we got this eternal enemy. The odds are stacked against us. Getting close to Allah is very tough because Shaitan went to Almighty Allah after what happened, the episode with Prophet Adam. Shaitan went to Almighty Allah and said, grant me amnesty just for a little time. See these people, because of them that you have condemned me, I'm going to lead them astray. I am going to make it so that they do not worship you. They do not obey you. They do not thank you. They do not understand. They do not see what you have given them, the preference that you have given them, the favor that you have done to them. I will make sure they don't see it. I'll make sure they don't appreciate it. I'll make sure they don't use it properly. So he has made that pledge, and Allah gave him the permission to do that. So he's standing in our way. In every way, everything that will make us be well, that will make us get closer to Allah, Shaitan is standing in the way. And then comes the month of Ramadan, where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِذَا دَخَلَ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ, when the month of Ramadan comes, فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ, the doors of heaven, the doors of Jannah will be open. وَغُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ, and the doors of the hellfire will be closed. وَصُفِّدَتِ الشَّيَاطِينِ, you see those hordes that are stacked against you. There are 2 things. There's you that is standing in your own way. Then there's the external factor that is standing in your way. There's the you standing in your way that was described to us by Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam when he was tempted to sleep with the wife of the king. And, you know, and he was free from the allegation, right? He was free from the allegation, he was freed. And then he said, وَمَا أُبَرِئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. See, our soul itself commands us to do evil. The soul is liable. Your soul yourself pushes you to commit evil every time, except for the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps out. Except for the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps out. And Allah's help is fasting. The way that Allah is helping us to fight our own soul against commanding us to do bad things is by fasting. And then there's the external factor. The way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping us to take care of the external factor that is holding us back is suffidat shayateen. In the month of Ramadan, all those external factors, all those evil attendees, evil attendants that come to you, that make you do all those external influence that push you to do bad things, that they are put in chains. That is one of the first major benefits of the month of Ramadan. We're getting major help. It is like being in a competition and the odds are stacked against you, but they told you that in this competition, the odds are stacked against you, However, within so time or this period within that competition, your opponent's hands will be tied. And when your opponent's hands are tied, you know that if your opponent's hands are not tied, it's going to be very tough playing that game or competing against them. But instead, they're going to tie your opponent's hand for so period of time. What are you going to do? You're going to take advantage of that space of time that is provided for you, that your opponent's hands are tied, because you know that ordinarily your opponents will beat you and mess you up. It's going to be tough for you. You could win without their hands being tied, but it will be very tough for you. But they're making it easy for you, giving you a time frame that your opponent's hands will be tied. That is the month of Ramadan. Your opponent is the external factor, Shaitan, that enemy of yours, that sworn enemy that said it will block your way and has been blocking your way all the way, every little step of the way since the beginning of the year. It's been blocking your way. And then you're given the month of Ramadan when that opponent, that formidable opponent of yours is put in chains. And now you're left with yourself. Now, what do you do with yourself? Now you still have that internal factor of yours. How do you now handle that? With fasting. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also told us again that the reason why it's beneficial to us that Shaitan is put in chains, and why it's significant and beneficial to us that Shaitan is put in chains in the month of Ramadan is that Inna Shaitana yajri min ibn Adam majra dam. Shaitan moves in our veins like blood flows through us. Every single person has their own Shaitan. Shaitan works over time on every single individual, every single day, every second of the day, every minute of the day. Shaitan is in you, is working in you, is telling you things, is giving you suggestions, is with you. You have assigned Shaitan. Then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَضَيِّقُوا عَلَيْهِ مَجَارِيَهُ بِالصَّوْمِ. And the Prophet said, make it tough for Shaitan to move around you by blocking his way with fasting. Block the Shaitan's way by fasting. And the Prophet also said, as an advice to young people who are of marriageable age, he said, Ya ma'ashara shabab, all you youth, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. Whoever amongst you is of age to get married and is able to get married already. But if you don't have the ability to do so, maybe for whatever reason, whatever reason is preventing you from getting married at that time, he said, fast instead. If you can't get married yet, fast. Because fasting will protect you. It will be a form of protection for you against sins. Because if you don't fast at that time, Shaitan, the one that is assigned to you, especially when it's outside of Ramadan and is not changed, does external factor work against you, and then you start committing zina, you're committing sin, and that, again, takes you farther away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the month of Ramadan, a very good month where we're getting extras. We're getting assistance against our enemy. We have our external enemy that is changed down, and then we have fasting that is going to help us take control of ourselves. Now, fasting itself, as part of the benefits of fasting, it is said that as-sawmu nisfu sabr. Fasting is half of patience. It teaches us patience. The patience with which we'll control that internal enemy of ours, that part of us that is holding us back. It is with patience that we can control it. And how is that? Because this enemy that we have, it is the one that does not give us the chance to fear Allah the way that it should be feared. And then Allah said, fasting has been ordained upon you so that you may attain piety. That is, if you fast, while you have an internal factor that prevents you from attaining piety, fasting will come in as an external factor that assists you to attain that level of piety. And when you get to the level of piety that is necessary for you, you will attain your essence. We talked about your essence earlier, about the creation of humans, what we're supposed to be, our level in the chain or in the pyramid of creation. We're supposed to be number one, but what holds us back are the sins and our irresponsibility and our lack of obedience to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what holds us back. In the pyramid scheme, in the pyramid of things, we're supposed to be ahead of the angels and ahead of the jinns. However, we're held back by the sins that we commit. But when we fast, to help us to attain the height that we're supposed to attain in the pyramid. It will help us to get to our position, our natural position that we're created to hold, to help us to attain that position. It will show us what we can become. That is why you feel the way you feel in the month of Ramadan when you fast. You feel the way you feel because that is you seeing the possibilities. This is the kind of height you can attain. This is the level of spirituality that you're capable of achieving. You can see it. You can see yourself. You're not just looking in the mirror this time around. You're in it, your essence. You're feeling that level of spirituality that you're capable of. For some people, when they taste that level of spirituality, after Ramadan, they will maintain it and remain the same. For most people, they taste that level of spirituality, which they're capable of, and then after Ramadan, they just relegate back to wherever, that level of faith that they used to have. Then they stop praying. Then they stop doing good. Then they stop giving alms and all those good things that they were doing during Ramadan. However, the fast in Ramadan comes to show you what you're capable of, aside of all those other factors. And after doing that, it also equips you with the tools that you need to fight the external factors that have been taken care on your behalf, and to fight the internal factors that hold you back outside of Ramadan. So again, it shows you all of these things, opens your eyes, and gets you the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with the consciousness of Allah, there's nothing that one cannot achieve. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقَهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And whoever fears Allah, whoever has the consciousness of Allah within them, Allah will create a way for them where there seems to be no way. And Allah will provide for them from whence they do not expect. What else do you want as a human being? What other things do you need as a human being? With the fear of Allah, with the consciousness of Allah in your heart, you would achieve it. And what does fasting have to do with the consciousness and the fear of Allah? Fasting is the one act of ibadah. It is the one single act out of all the acts of ibadah that we have. We have 5 pillars of Islam: the shahada, you have the hajj, you have the fasting, you have the zakat, and then you have the salat. All the other 4 pillars are not private. They can be witnessed by other people. You are at risk of doing it for people to see you. The only act of ibadah that you have no risk at all, that you might be doing it for people to see you. Remember, if you do something just for people to praise you, or if you felt, satisfied with praise only, and you're not seeking reward from Allah for what you do, you get no reward for it. You are being rewarded by the praise that they praise you. You're being rewarded by the fact that they see you, right? But fasting, nobody sees that you're fasting. Fasting is the only act of ibadah that is between a servant of Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, كُلُّ عَمَلِ ابْنَ آدَمَ. Everything that the son of Adam does, lahu, it is for himself. It is for himself. إِلَّا الصَّوْمَ, except for fasting. فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Because fasting is the one thing that is sure that he's doing for me. Because when you fast and you're keeping yourself hungry, you have food in your house and you are keeping away from it because Allah said so, because you are fasting for Allah. You have drink in the house and you're thirsty and you're staying away from it. You're holding yourself back for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like nobody needs to know. You could go and drink water and be done with it, but you're holding yourself from doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing it for Allah only. And Allah said, that is the one thing. You're doing it for me. You're doing it because you have the consciousness of Allah. Every day, every single time that you're thirsty and you have water and you don't drink it, you're learning how to be conscious of Allah. You're learning how to do things for the sake of Allah. That is what I was saying, that after Ramadan, for some people, they see this essence of themselves. They see this capability that they have. It is inherent in you. Fasting is coming to show you what you are capable of doing. You can control yourself, your urges to eat or drink, you can control it during Ramadan. And so you take this outside of Ramadan, and you know that you have learned how to hold back from eating and drinking, even when you're hungry and thirsty. And you continue to do that the same way. So it teaches us the consciousness of Allah. And then number 2, What does fasting do for us again? They said, يُكْسِرُ حِدَّةَ شَهْوَاتٍ. It will break, fasting will break the hold of desire over us. Desire comes from our soul. It is part of the internal influence that we're talking about. Desire. Desire can be sexual. It can be for anything else. But the major point is that the root of all evil is not money. The root of all evil is human desire. The root of all evil is human desire. The person that has gone to steal is because he desires that thing that he went to steal. The person that kills somebody else is because he desires something. It is born out of desire. Desire can be negative and it can be positive. A positive desire is something that is beneficial to the person that's doing it, even though it's a wrong thing, but it's beneficial to him. Maybe you steal something to eat, or you steal somebody's thing to put in your to use it for yourself. That's beneficial. A negative desire is one that one has that doesn't benefit them but hurts somebody else, like taking someone else's life. So when you kill somebody, it's not like it's going to add your own years or your own lifetime, but now you're shortening somebody else's time on earth. So that's negative desire. But everything, the root of evil is desire. And fasting will help you to break that hold that desire has over you. It is said that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again, part of why he advised young people to fast if they cannot get married. Because when you fast, if you cannot get married, if you're not ready for marriage and you consistently fast, it will break the sexual urge that you might be having otherwise. And so that you don't commit zina, which is a great sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It keeps your consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will find that also during Ramadan, that as a single person who doesn't have any wife, you don't tend to go towards zina or the thoughts of it or things like that. Fasting helps you to break that. It helps you to reduce that urge within you. That fire of desire, the fire of desire within you that grows in your blood, fasting will help you to quench that fire and help you to gain better control of yourself. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, "As-sawmu junnatun," or "As-sawmu wiqayatun min al-ma'asi." Fasting will protect you from sin. It saves you and protects you from committing sins that takes you farther away from Allah. Because again, when you're fasting, you have consciousness of Allah. And when you're conscious of Allah, when you want to do something, you're reminding yourself that Allah will not like this. Allah will not like this. So you're steering clear of doing such a thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that people, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are people who fast, that their fasting is just mere hunger and just keeping themselves hungry and thirsty. And they asked, who are those people? And said, it is someone who is fasting, and yet his mouth will not stop saying things that are wrong. It doesn't stop using his mouth, even though he's not eating and drinking. His mouth does not stop to say bad things. His eyes do not stop to look at things. And at this juncture, it's important to state that the scholars have said there are different levels of fasting. They said there are 3 levels of fasting. Number 1 is Sawmul Umum, the general fast, the general fasting. This Sawmul Umum, the general fasting, is the one that you simply stay away from eating and drinking. That's general. That's ordinary fasting. That's a general term of fasting. However, the one that is called Sawmul Khusus is the special fasting. This special fasting is the one that a person, while keeping away from eating and drinking, also keeps away from using their mouth to say things that are wrong, using their legs to walk to places that are bad, using their hands to hold things that are wrong or to take things that are not their own, using their ears to hear things that are bad, using their eyes to look at things that are wrong. So that is special fasting. And then there's the Sawmu Khusus al-Khusus, the special fast, extra special fasting. This one is not for ordinary human beings. But it says that this one is reserved for prophets and for prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is this type of fasting? Is the one where um, you don't just not to do those things. This one will come with a condition like you're fasting not to speak with anyone, except nothing will come out of, so this kind of fasting, I said, nothing will come out of my mouth except the name of Allah in terms of remembrance of Allah, that I'm doing zikr. And when you do anything that is not zikr, the fast is broken. So besides not eating and drinking, not saying bad things, not looking at bad things and all that, you're also dedicating your mind, your thoughts. You will not think about anything except Allah. You will not think about anything except worship. And once anything crosses your mind that is not worship or that is not Allah, then the fast is broken. For us, maybe our fasting is only if you eat or drink and all those other good stuff. For that level of fasting, that third level of fasting, that's why I said it's reserved for prophets and messengers of Allah. But for us, the recommended level of fasting is level 2, which is the special fasting, where you're not just limiting your fasting to not eating or drinking, you're extending it to say, while I'm not eating and drinking, I'm also not going to do things that are forbidden. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the person who's fasting does not prevent them from saying bad words, that for such person to eat and drink is better for them than to fast, because there's no point in your fasting. How can you be fasting and people cannot testify to your fasting? How can you be fasting and people cannot feel the goodness that you say is in the month, that you say is in the fasting? Why are you're supposed to be fasting to attain a high level of your essence, to tap into your essence as a human being, as Allah intended it for you, as you to take your place in the pyramid of creation. You're supposed to be a better person by fasting. So how can it be that even while you are fasting, we don't know the difference between that time and when you were not fasting? There should be a clear difference in it. There should be a better you. There should be a better version of you. If there is not, then the Prophet Muhammad said, it's just as much as you just getting yourself hungry. Maybe you are slim fitting, or instead of going to the gym, you just want to do, what do they call this fasting that helps you with weight loss, is what you're doing. Number 3, said, now, يستدعى الإحساس المرئي والشفعة والرحمة التي تدعوه إلى البذل والعطاء. See, fasting gets you to a place of equality. Fasting is what it helps one to attain what you call knowing what the other person feels, knowing how other people feel when you do not eat from morning to night. You feel hunger. You understand hunger to a certain extent. You can now empathize with people who are poor throughout the year and cannot eat. That is why you understand the essence of giving alms. You understand the essence of sadaqah. Every time you give sadaqah, you're giving it from an understanding of the happiness you're going to put into the person's life when you give them something to eat, within or outside of Ramadan. But within Ramadan, you get to learn. Anytime you fast, this is one of the essence of fasting. So fasting does for you, helps you to empathize, puts you in the shoes of those other people that you otherwise would not have understood really what they're going through. You get to be in that position, and then it helps you to attain that level of, of being helpful to them, of providing help to those who really need it, because now you know what they're going through. And Allah described believers, we are brothers, but He described us as that we help ourselves, we assist ourselves, we're kind to one another. But there can be no kindness if there's no empathy. There can be no empathy if you don't understand what someone is going through. And how best to understand hunger, except that you feel it yourself. And then it's also said that it's also what bridges the gap between the rich and the poor. Because you're a rich person, you have food, of course. But here are you living the life of a poor person every day for 30 days. You're living the life of, some people call it, when you eat breakfast, no lunch and no dinner, they say you're eating 100. If you eat, you can be 110, it can be 011. Here you're eating 101 now. For some people, it's just 100. For some people, it's 001. So now you're understanding how it feels when people go all day without eating. Even though you're rich, you know how the poor live their lives and how they've been managing. So these are the essence of Ramadan. These are the essence of the fast of Ramadan. Again, it is not the month is what is Ramadan. But it is the fasting that brings blessing that flows down to the month. It's the same fasting that its blessing will flow down onto us, that will help us to attain our essence and take our place amongst the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be the ones what Allah intends us to be, the preferred one. Because human beings are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to through his angel. Remember when he was going to create humans, and he told them, I'm going to create humans, and he told him, you want to create those who will be killing themselves and spilling their blood. And Allah said to them, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lam. I know that which you do not know. What did Allah know then that the angels did not know? Allah knows that He was going to give us something that He didn't give them. They are worshiping Allah because they are created to worship Allah and Allah alone. And that's the essence of their creation. So Allah was going to create something new, something different from them, that He is going to give free will to. And He's going to watch them and be proud of them, use that free will that He gave to them to worship Him. He's going to watch them use that free will that He gave to them to obey Him and do from within themselves, willingly within themselves, worship Him and give to Him that which He's asking of them, which is their ibadah. And that is the essence. That is what Allah wills for us. And He's helping us to achieve that. He's giving us a task to worship Him. It is hard because of all those different factors, internal and external, but it's giving us a tool. It's giving us fasting as a tool to help us achieve that aim of worship, to help us achieve that level of closeness to Him above the angels and the jinn. It's giving us fasting as a tool to help us close the gap, because Shaitan exploits our weakness as humans. That weakness that we have is our desire. Our desire is part of our creation as human beings. It's desire also as part of creation of animals. Our desire is our weakness because it is what makes us like animals. It's our desire, sexual and and every other kind of desire. Eating of food is also a kind of desire. Animals have that too. If you're just eating and eating and eating, you're no different from animals. If you're just having sexual desire, and every time you have sexual desire, you're having sex. Because of that, without doing it the right way, getting married, having a wife, and going through the normal process, you're just having the desire and having sex with that desire, you're no different from animals. So our desire is our weakness. And it is the one thing that Shaitan exploits. However, fasting has come to us as a tool from Allah to plug this defect in us, to plug this inability to hold ourselves. It is the tool that we use to fight and protect ourselves against this inherent weakness within us in our creation, and to block that hole that the Shaitan would use to manipulate us. And during that time, the Shaitan is kept in chains so that we can focus on fixing ourselves. And when we are fixed, we have enough power to last us another year before Ramadan, another Ramadan comes. Finally, we have talked about the essence of Ramadan, the importance of Ramadan, our essence, within it. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that it is a sad situation for a son of Adam, أدرك شهر رمضان, that he witnessed the month of Ramadan, ولا غفر له, and it does not attain the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the month of Ramadan is the month that one should enter, fast the way that they should fast, pray the way that they should pray, and attain the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and come out of that month like the day that it was born. Because the month is like you enter a car wash, the automatic car wash, and you just drive through and it's washing your car, you're just moving slowly and you're sliding and you come out of the other side shining. That is what that month should do for you. But if for any reason, for whatever reason, You go into that car wash, which is the month of Ramadan, and you slide like everyone else is sliding. And you go through the whole process, through the whole, you're in the curtain and everything, and you come out on the other side and you're not shining like the car that goes into the car wash. The Prophet Muhammad said, it is a real pity for you. Because if you cannot get forgiveness in the month of Ramadan, then when? Then how? If you cannot take opportunity, the great opportunity that is in the month of Ramadan, if you can't get clean at the car wash, then where else can your car be clean? So this is very important, brothers and sisters, that we take advantage of the month of Ramadan. This is the one time, this is 1 month. Again, the external factors that would normally work against us being handled on our behalf. We could not normally handle this external factor on our own. There's no way we can do it. It has been handled in this 1 month. There's no other month of the year that the shaitan will be put in chains. It is the month of Ramadan. So if you cannot fix yourself, and your defects within the month and block all the holes and the leakages in your faith, within the month where the shaitan is kept in chains, then when would you have the time? Isn't when the shaitan is now released? If you cannot fix yourself and your defects in the month when the doors of the hellfire is closed shut, then when are you going to be able to fix yourself? Is it when the door is back, when the door is open? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. May Allah count us amongst those who will get the full benefit of this month, accept all of our acts of ibadah, accept all of our acts of ibadah in this month. Make us amongst one of those who would get out of this month of Ramadan like the day that we were born, free of sins, free of all iniquities. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to harness the power in this month to fight against the internal and external enemies that prevent us from achieving our essence. Grant us the consciousness of Allah that gets us closer to Him and helps us to attain our position amongst the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا جزيلا Imam Abdul Azeez. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you abundantly. So now keep the line open for question and answer. From the Jama'ah, if we have any question.
In the meantime, we pray. We pray for Ustad Abdul Azeez that has just given us this lecture. We pray that Allah reward him abundantly. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him